Well, there's a NatSem report out today which canvasses a range of figures, and I can't confirm those one way or the other, but I mean the age pension costs over $42 billion a year. And so the sorts of entitlements and payments that are made to people with assets of that sort of size, particularly the family home, is quite small relatively to the overall bill. And so in one sense, you know, if you're looking to try and get the overall cost of the age pension under control over the next 20 to 30 years, then you need a much bigger plan than what's being talked about there. But let me make it perfectly clear, the government is not considering including the family home in the assets test for the age pension. And you talked earlier on your program, I think, some of the good reasons why doing that is not such a good idea. I mean, there are all sorts of anomalies that come up and all of that. The only party that's ever put a tax on the family home was the New South Wales Labor government, and when they put the land tax on the family home, and they eventually had to abolish it. And interestingly, I think Chris Bowen was an advisor to that government. I don't want to force people to sell their family home, but I don't think they should be penalised for wanting to sell the family home either. And I think the current system actually has some pretty severe penalties for people who might want to sell their family home of their own volition and to support themselves more as they grow older, because we're all living older and we're living healthier older. That means we can work longer, and we need to support ourselves for longer. It's a big penalty for someone who might want to downsize and get in out of something which is asset rich for them, but frankly cash poor. And the costs of maintaining a lot of these larger properties can be very expensive, whether it's on rates or other things. And if they might want to downsize, if they were to do that, they could do a lot to diminish their income. So I mean, the system actually is penalising people for wanting to make what might be very rational choices.
You don't accept that there may be people who would like to sell their family home but are worried that they can't do it, concerned they can't do it because it'll trip up their pension asset test?
It's not about what I reckon, Chris. Too much of this government's policy approach is about what they reckon in their gut because of their ideology. It's about the evidence. If Scott Morrison thinks there are people out there who've lived in the same house for decades who just really want to leave but can't, well, let's see the evidence. Let's see the research and the analysis. Let's not have Scott Morrison waking up one morning and saying, well, I reckon this is a problem, and floating it out into the national media. That is not how policy should be made, and I think it's pretty regrettable. Of course, if there is evidence to that effect, well, it's a completely different matter, and we'll hear about that, I'm sure, if it exists.